Welcome to William Steel True Crime, Steal the Spotlight Television. This is my podcast. This is a social media show, and it also goes out over my cable TV show, of which I'm the host and executive producer, Steal the Spotlight. And we now are launching a public relations firm, Steal the Spotlight. Um, we do a hell of a lot of shows. We are currently making moves and filming TV shows and movies all over the country. I'm blessed to be in South Florida, having a great time here, and the holidays, are a wonderful time. Um, some troubling things have come up, but it's all good because it's all for doing the right thing. And we're going to continue on the crime prevention and using my past to share stories and help people. And when people screw up, you know, they have to realize that there's always people paying attention. And so I realize that, and I will never do anything to jeopardize my freedom or my safety ever again. That lifestyle was almost 30 years ago. So anyway, if you can't stand my honesty, I don't know what to tell you. I listen to a higher power these days. I have plenty of former law enforcement on my show. I have current law enforcement coming on the show to discuss cold cases, and we definitely support the blue. Now, today's show is back to Mafia Mondays. Now, you guys remember Louie Balistrieri. He was a former New York City Mafia detective. I'll let him quickly reintroduce himself. We're going to get back into doing the routine show with him. This trip here has interfered with quite a few things. It was quite a few setbacks and letdowns, disappointments, frustration, misrepresentations by some very, very powerful individual. We're not going to get into that here. There's a lot of forgiveness on our end, a lot of soul searching. And so, in the end, I rely on God and no man. And I'm a very forgiving and understanding person. And I won't allow myself to be put in that position again. Anyway, Louie is back, and he's going to join.
Guys,
oh, there goes Louie Balistrieri.
Louie B here, Balistrieri. You're leaving out
Louie B.
Louie B. It's easier. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I did. I must have put 5 pounds on. And the last couple of days, I've been doing a little bit of hunting, which I enjoy immensely. And that's about it. We're coming into the new Christmas season, and
I found it funny that you sent a video of a bunch of does walking by where you were posted up, I guess, in a tree stand.
yes,
I never hunted in my life, and I'm not allowed to own a gun. But I'll tell you what, somebody that was with me had to look away because they didn't want to see you shoot anything, and you didn't shoot anything. And then the next day, your friend's daughter got a gigantic buck that
amazing
wouldn't fit in the living room. It was so big.
Let me tell you, I'm jealous. I'm angry, and if I shot that deer, I would take all my guns and throw them in the pool and never hunt again.
How big was the deer, and how old is she? She looked like she was about 15 or something.
Hey, there goes somebody at the door. There's a dog barking. Hey. She's in the 6th grade.
Wow.
Okay? And that is fantastic. This is what great parents do. They school their kids on firearms. They showed them how, what they could do with a firearm. They took this young lady out, and she hunted, and she connected with a big deer. She harvested a big deer. She's not going to be one of these kids that's going to take a gun to school and, kill her classmates or what have you. It's good guidance. It's great parenting, and I agree with it 100%. I went out yesterday. I took both of my nephews with me. One guy is a great hunter. The other guy, who is 9 years old, he's being groomed. We gave him binoculars, and he's got to be the point man. I didn't even take a gun. I sat behind him and just talked to them, and showed them how to walk around the woods and so on and so forth. It's a great sport.
So in your retirement from New York City organized crime detective, you're hunting, you're enjoying life, and you're really become a dear friend. I know that you also were teaching judo for a while, associated with you're a very, very skilled individual. In fact, when you were down here in Florida with us, you taught me a few little moves and things like that. So let me reintroduce you real quick. So Louie and I are both from New York, different areas of New York. I'm from Brooklyn. and he was a patrolman in the years when I was ripping running the streets of Rivington Street and what do you call that, the Lower East Side or whatever it is, Lower East Side, New York. So back in those days, it was hell on earth. I was doing the wrong things there. I had just started in those years, with a little problem that I was developing. I haven't touched that in almost 30 years now, but he was a cop on the beat there, new guy, and probably the only white guy on patrol. So Louie, just in a quick 5 minutes, refresh my audience of who you are as I put some images on the screen, and then we're going to get into today's news, the Trump victory, and some crime prevention things that we agreed to talk about.
I went to the police academy in 1984. 1985, I was working out on the Lower East Side. We all worked coming out of the academy. We're all New Jacks, and we all had to walk foot posts. I was picked up by a unit called CPOP, Community Patrol Officer Program, where I stayed in the same precinct where I was at. I had 32 block faces to patrol by myself, all alone, and I did steady 4 to 12s. On that post, I had car batteries thrown off the roof at me, ashtrays. It was just, the Lower East Side at the time was full of heroin. It's the heroin capital of America. It was a rough place to be, rough place to work. The biggest fear that you had was patting somebody down, effecting an arrest, and getting poked by a needle. And it's just a scary thing. I did that for more than a year, and I was picked up by the 7th Precinct robbery unit, where myself and my partner, we were in uniform in an unmarked car, and we responded.
I remember you said eventually you were part of HIDA, high intensity drug traffic area.
Correct.
Which is really all over the country now. I think there's 12 of them or more all over the country. There's specialized multi-agency squads that target violent criminals, gun crime, home invaders, gang members. You were part of the original HIDA squad, weren't you?
That's correct. I got into that after doing anti-crime work. I went into the narcotics division. I got promoted to detective, and they opened up HIDA. George Bush, the senior, says to the NYPD, give me 30 of your best detectives. And he took some sergeants and lieutenants, and he put together 3 teams, and it was all federally funded. And they were broken down into Colombians, non-traditional drug gangs, which would be Jamaicans and whatever, and Asians. Now, I had a very good background on Asian organized crime. And when I interviewed under an Asian lieutenant, and he said to me he was very amazed at how much I knew about Asian organized crime and words that they use, and I could speak some of the things that I had to do. And he said to me, "Would you be an undercover?" I said, "Well, what's in it for me? I got my detective shield." He said, "Well, I guarantee you, within the next 18 months to 2 years, I'll promote you again." I said, "Okay, I did it." So I became a true undercover, not just somebody working in plain clothes. I was removed from the police computers. I had a complete different set of identity, and I bought Asian heroin in an undercover capacity for 2 solid years. From there, I was picked up by another team to do traditional organized Italian crime, where I invested the Italian bread industry, because organized crime was controlling where bread bakers and stores could have their Italian bread bought and sold. So I did that.
With your background and lineage, you have a lot of family on I think you said
both sides of the fence.
Right, both sides of the fence. So you were really conflicted about working any organized crime cases.
I didn't want to, and they stuck me there as a punishment, because I had a difficult time getting along with this Asian lieutenant who put me in some hot water a few times by jumping the gun, by operations that we were doing, and we were banging heads, and I had to give him a shot at the title, and I was the lonely detective, and I got launched, and he stayed, but I did the Italian bread case, and then from there I got pushed into another team doing organized crimes control over the private sanitation industry, where myself, my partner, Victor Fiabani, there he is, my little sweet bag of muffins.
Shout out to Vic, man. We love Vic. He's been a phenomenal guest.
He's the best. He's the best. Spoke to him this morning. He wakes me up every morning.
That's right. I know he was in Italy recently and some other things going on. Vic, you're welcome to come back anytime. And we're going to start doing book tours and speaking engagements. And we'd love to have you along for the ride.
He's recovering from a hip replacement. He's
Right.
doing well. And, I wish him nothing short of the best, of course. We did the largest organized crime case in the history of New York law enforcement. There he is, Uncle Victor.
And that was called the Wasteland case. And there's a documentary you guys
Operation Wasteland, right.
Operation Wasteland, Genovese and Gambino family.
That is correct. Oh, there I guess. There's the Morgenthau. He was the district attorney at the time.
Now, for the record, that's you with the gray suit? Oh, no.
That's me, the beige suit.
You had those shirts made. You had those shirts made and gave them out after the
Yes, I did. I made those shirts, and the day we took the case down, I gave them out to everybody. And that was I had the mafia hand from The Godfather controlling the garbage truck. And you see on the side it says Operation Wasteland. That was it was a great time for us. It was a big celebration, and we all expected to get promoted, and it didn't happen that way, and we all left there very distraught. I was injured on that case and forced to retire, and here I am today.
So Louie's working on a book. Hopefully it's going to be out soon. He's got the documentary Wasteland. Check it out. Louie and I now do a segment called Mafia Mondays. He just came back from Las Vegas. There's some talk about being in the Mafia Museum. We don't know where that is, but we now do crime prevention shows. From my experience as, doing all the wrong things many, many years ago, turning my life around and collaborating with guys like him, Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent, dear friend of mine. He's hopefully going to be running for Congress up in Virginia. I've announced that I'm going to run for president in 2028, and I have over 1 million fans telling me that they're willing to vote for me. So it's been a hell of a ride. So Louie, welcome back.
Thank you.
And it is gorgeous down here. We were glad you joined us for the event over at the Capone Speakeasy on Clematis Street.
Yes, that was a beautiful place. First time I was ever down in Boca.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they switched the furniture out on us. I took pictures the day before. Gorgeous 20s era speakeasy. It's owned by former mobsters that they cooperated with the feds, whatever. They own the nightclubs. They own the place. I don't care what they did. So they turned their life around. And so I lost a big venue I had at the Boca Town Center Mall, Maggiano's. I got the biggest space there. They said, anytime I want to come back, it's free of charge. And we have an arrangement. So I have 3 or 4 venues in Boca that we're ready to start doing other events in, but Speakeasy was last minute and they don't make food. So I had to pay for the catering to come in. And because we had a small amount of planning and it rained that day on a Sunday, there wasn't a big turnout. So it was my first time out of the gate. I'm learning this as I go, but Louie is a real friend and he stuck around an extra, I think, 2 days in South Florida. You and your wife.
We had a great time.
We had a blast. And so thank you for that. What do you think about this guy winning the election? A lot has transpired since we last went live like this. What do you think of this?
Listen, I'm pro-Trump. As you know, in 1989, I worked a narcotics case for him in one of his hotels. Mm-hmm. And he's a very, very, I never met the guy per se. I met all of his people, his security people. He had a gentleman dealing drugs in the hotel and he wanted him out of there. I don't think he's ever had a drink in his life. I know he doesn't do drugs. He's very, very anti-drug, very anti-drinking. And I got to say, I got to commend him for that. I think he had an older brother who had problems of the sort. And that really haunted him.
Yeah. Yeah, I know him and of him for years. That his father built Trump Village, and then they started. Trump himself was renovating everything in Manhattan, and so one of my best friends, Peter Tickton, happens to be his lifelong friend and attorney. Now, Peter, we just spent time in his office the other day. There's me with my arm around Peter at his office. Trump, of course, wasn't with us, but I put that photo on the thumbnail, and so he just came on the show yesterday. I released a brand new show with him, and I will say this here because he released it yesterday for the first time. I said, "What's Trump's plans now that he won?" And like they know each other 68 years. They did the math yesterday. I said, "You know him longer than some of his family members. You're like super close to him. You're one of his best friends. You're one of his attorneys. He sued Hillary Clinton for racketeering, and that's still in the appeal court, by the way. And I said, what are they going to do with these J6 guys? He said, there's already a committee going over the cases. He's going to pardon every last one of them unless they were involved with a violent act that day. He said, those people are not getting out. He said, but I'm telling you here, first time ever, it's official. He's going to pardon the J6 people. So that's right from the horse's mouth. One of the attorneys. I did want to share this with you, Louie, before I forget. We're going to move on to talk a little bit more about Trump. And we got a friend of mine. So he's Thomas Harding. That's a documentary about him. He was a bounty hunter. But before that, he was a gang member in New York. He was a collector for the mob, various nightclubs. I can't remember the name of the club. You probably know the name of it. It was like a bondage club in Manhattan owned by the mob. He was one of the it was S&M club, Hellfire or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was
There's
one of
a few of them out there. Not that I ever attended that.
No, not you.
Vic would know more about that. He had to go to those. No, seriously, he investigated those clubs.
So what we decided is he's got a nice documentary out, and it's about his change of life and how he actually became a bounty hunter. And Dog, the bounty hunter, I enjoy the show. It was a little quirky for me, but he goes after people that jumped on like minor felonies and misdemeanors. My friend Tommy here is a beast. He went only after murderers and pedophiles and drug traffickers and big guys who jumped their bond, like really, really dangerous individuals. And so we are going to be bringing him on. We're going to find ways to fit him in as a regular co-host, and we're going to help promote him. And you and I and Ignacio and Frank Lordi and Mary have discussed doing possibly documentary together, a reality show based upon what we do and how we came together. And I want to invite him, bring you and Ignacio and everybody on at the same time and introduce him to my audience.
That'd be great. Yeah.
So this is him. He's been living all over the country since his days in New York City, Georgia, I think North Carolina. So here he is in the supervisor's car. What does that say?
Fayetteville, North Carolina.
They're all friends of his. He's very prominent in community. He helps kids. He talks to kids. He's graduated college. So we give a shout out to Tommy. And I can't wait for you guys to all meet him.
God bless him.
Yeah, he's a good turnaround story. So me and him have a ton in common because I was like, well, wait a minute. I have like all former law enforcement and current law enforcement on my show. I need to have somebody that has a background like me, but he brings a different dimension to it because he was really ingrained in like the organized crime part of it and the collections and the violence, and it completely turned us around. But where I was more like a loner and more of a like clean cut guy, you know what I mean, at the time. And so, but we ran the same streets in Brooklyn. And so he's going to be an interesting addition. So,
well,
what do you think of Trump?
Not that I want to throw bouquets at myself, but I grew up on the streets of Brooklyn. And by the time I was 14, I had done 2 truck heists. Not that I robbed anyone per se with a gun, but I was an opportunist thief. I saw cops chasing a box truck. They went right past my house. They tried to make a turn. They hit the curb. 2 guys get out of the truck. They started running. And the cops were chasing them, and the back doors opened on the truck. Now, this is 1971 now, and there were a ton of ladies' pantsuits, which were very popular at the time. So within a week, I became a ladies' pantsuit salesman because that whole truck went into my garage. Everything that was on that truck. That was number one.
I saw one time on, I think, the Bell Parkway in New York, there was like a Brinks truck from a bank. Somehow the back door pops open, a bag of money, like $4 million or whatever, a couple of bags fall out. Everybody in traffic's gathering that. And like they said, like whoever didn't turn it in is going to jail. And they arrested people.
Yeah, all right. We also had, my dad came home one day. My dad's a retired cop, and he goes, it took me 20 minutes to go 5 blocks. What happened? A truck turned over. What kind of truck? They had sod. There's sod all over the place. And we ran across the street and got this guy. We called him Frank the Guinea, respectfully. He was an Italian guy from Sicily, tough guy. I said, Frankie, let's go. What are you going to do? Frankie, let's go. You're going to get me arrest. What's the matter, Chew? What's the matter? We filled up the back of his dump truck with sod, and everybody got new lawns on the block.
There you go.
And that's that's part of the stuff that.
So you had many opportunities to take
Yeah,
one of two paths, and you decided to go to law
got
enforcement.
a good smack in the head. What I did do is I took organized crime ways to the police department. Not that I was stealing or shaking people down. Never took a dime. That was not me. You couldn't bribe me. I didn't take drug money. I took some of their concepts. One of the concepts was look for weakness.
Right.
Okay. In addition to that, I learned how to control the controllers because then I was in control. And I did it to these bosses that had no idea I was doing it to them. And that's how I operated my career until I got to OSID, and then that's a place where I wasn't liked too well.
You control the controllers and plant gossip with the people that you know are
No,
very
not
gossip.
necessarily. Like we had myself and my partner were driving one day, and we in the precinct we have what's called ICOs, Integrity Control Officers,
Right.
and they're like internal affairs on a precinct level. If then something real big went down, they'd have to notify internal affairs. But these guys were the hall monitors, so to speak. And we're driving, and we passed our ICO. He's going to be nameless because he's one hell of a nice guy, and he was sleeping in a car, department car, unmarked car. So we went over, knocked on the window. It was obvious. He had one too many because he went to something called we call them rackets, which was a police party. So what we did was we left his car there, took his keys, put him in our car, took him 2 precincts away. We brought him home to his wife, and we went home. He went home, and we took his car and drove it to the station, our precinct, and we put it underneath the garage. And I kept the keys. That was on a Friday night or a Saturday. The following Monday, I went to him. I gave him his keys. Didn't say how, when, where, to what degree. Guess what? I controlled him now. I controlled the controller. So basically, I could do anything in that precinct. Nothing was going to happen to me. Never mention it to anyone. But, we had him in the pocket, and that's what you had to do. You got to do that kind of stuff.
There you go. So we're we were going to back up, I think, to Trump. So we were in his office the other day, and there goes Peter. This guy is so relieved because he put out so many shows and really good information about what's going on behind the scenes. And Peter wrote this book. I want to give him another shout out. Guys, check out the book. He knows Trump for 68 years, and he's still in this inner circle. So God bless Peter, dear friend of mine, and Mary's. I'm trying to find you something else here. But anyway.
I can't wait to meet him.
Yeah, next time you come down.
Yeah.
We're still trying to find a place down here, but it's tough, man. And we had a guy give us a major runaround, and it's just disgusting. He's done it to a lot of people, and it just was a bad situation. But Boca is beautiful. It's a little bit pricey for us, so it's fine. Being outside the area. I think we're looking more towards maybe Central Florida or the West Coast now, but we'll see. Because we have Samantha Markle, Meghan Markle's sister is my other co-host, and we have Matt Cox out there. He does home title like loan commercials. He was in prison for mortgage fraud. Some kind of fraud like that. And he and I are looking into doing a reality show together on a major network about, the crime and crime prevention. And so there's a lot going on. I'm trying to bring my other co-hosts up on the screen. So we have Mary, my fiance. She's a forensic accountant, data scientist, and we work with wrongful conviction. Ignacio Esteban, Frank Lordi. Frank is in the middle of some.
What a gentleman.
Yes, he is. Great guy. Went to prison as an innocent man, a politician, was framed. He eventually got exonerated not long ago, just a few months ago, wrote a book, and now he blesses us with his presence. And, this is Ignacio's book. When is your book going to come out, by the way, Lou?
It's a timing thing. I still have 2 people that want to, I have to put it all together. I have it, but it's just, you know what? I'm lazy. I have to be honest with you. With the holidays coming up,
send us the manuscript. We'll help you get it together. I took the movie, Silent Partners, which is a 1980s cocaine trafficking mafia movie set in the 1980s. You went to the premiere, so you saw the movie
with Cyril.
So, yeah, so I had a little role playing cards at the poker table with the guy who wrote the book about his dad, Fat Dave, who was a Gambino captain. Now, Dave Iacchevetti is a dear friend of mine. He's got Club TV, and he's not in the life, thank God. He decided to, not go into organized crime, but he's a businessman, and he wrote the book about his dad, and Silent Partners is based upon that. And I ended up in the same scene of the movie with Dave, the guy who wrote the book. So, the book was kind of butchered from a point of view of editing, and I was a law clerk, and I was, an editor. I've written some books, so I said, "Do me a favor, man, clean up that manuscript. Send me the manuscript. I'll re-edit it." And I took care of it in just a few days. And he's like, "Oh my God, it reads better than it ever did." So if you want help getting your book going,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
What I do is I write, and I have a system on my computer that makes all the corrections for me, and then I go back and I read everything once or twice and make sure it's flowing. And I have about another half a chapter to finish it off, and then we'll be ready to roll.
This one I wrote while I was incarcerated about the wealthiest serial killer in American history, Robert Durst. My co-author, Gary Greenberg, is a writer and editor with the National Enquirer. Nancy Grace, as you see her name on the cover of my book, covered it on her podcast. I've been written up in the national media several times, National Enquirer, New York Post, and many other publications. And this is one I just put out about it. And that book and all of them are written from the point of view of crime prevention. So I expose the Durst that I knew. I knew Robert Durst, and I exposed the Durst that I knew. This one here, bank vault heist, about millions of dollars stolen in a Chicago bank burglary many, many years ago. And I give tips about how this burglary right here could have been prevented. And they ended up stealing millions by that. And then I wrote this about billionaire Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell. Maxwell, I unfortunately knew. I knew Jeffrey a little bit, and so I wrote another expose here. And my links are in the description for these books, guys. I'm going to do a little self promotion here. Check out my books. Trying to earn an honest living here. We lost a lot of money with this Florida expedition, trusting the wrong people, and just getting into a massive hole with rental cars and, hotel rooms and all this other stuff, instead of right into a place that we needed initially. Just like it was like a carrot and a stick and dangling in front of us, empty promise after empty promise, throwing peanuts at us like we're some kind of circus clowns or an elephant in a zoo where you throw peanuts, and instead of there's something in recovery that talks about half measures availed us nothing. And I can't help but have that come to mind when I think about what we went through. And it wasn't our fault. We were not the ones doing half measures. It was the people that were making us empty promises. Anyway, so my show here, fans are irritated that I'm not on season 2. Network stepped up, offered me my own show. I'm also obligated to do a few more. So that's coming around here soon. And we are really, I talk to Maria and everybody else all the time. Louie's got to get his damn book out already. He's got to have
listen, I'm trying. It's just pure laziness. I have other things. I have other pokers in the fire, which will be nameless for now.
You said you have T-shirts. If you have T-shirts that you're putting up for sale, if you have merchandise.
No, we're not selling anything. These are gifts for you, Mary, and Mom. Come on.
Okay. I thought, because if you had merchandise, throw it up on the screen.
At some point in time, maybe. At some point in time. But not now. I'm involved with 3 casting directors who are constantly throwing stuff at me, and I'm doing these, speaking to people. As you know, a very good friend of mine is Henry Hill's wife, right. Lisa Caserta. She's an absolute sweetheart of a lady. I was referred to her, and she's taken me to places I've never been. So she keeps me on my toes as well. And I got stuff rolling with her, and, a little bit here, a little bit there. We're still promoting Operation Wasteland. I have another friend of mine, a casting director, who referred me to this casting agent who is interested in me doing this show with them. But, it's all up in the air. You
Right.
know, I believe all of this stuff when I'm standing online with the check and it's endorsed and I'm ready to get my money in
That's how.
hand. Until
That's
then, I believe nothing.
just like in the South Florida real estate business. There's a hell of a lot of bullshitters in the entertainment business. What it is, and what I've learned, Louie, you got to make your own path. Yes, I was handed a show by A&E Network, and it became the second highest rated show in the country. Um, and now I have the other doors are opening. But I always intended to do true crime channel, was focusing on inspirational turnaround stories and crime prevention. So what we're doing right here was what I intended to do: write my books, do this, maybe a drama series, feature film about my life. That stuff's all happening now. I didn't expect to also get a reality show. This lady, I mean, the show, my season one came out what, a year and a half ago. This lady put a clip up about me a few weeks ago. It's already got like 4.5 million views. So I still have millions of fans. They're always asking me, when are you going to do another show? When are you going to do another show? So I'm going to start producing my own reality show. And you know what? I'm going to have people like you and Ignacio and Mary and people
Very
like me.
much appreciate. You know, people don't realize how important you are. Your life experience can save somebody else's life. You
I
know,
appreciate
this
that.
is no look. I'm not God. I don't judge anybody. I judge you based on how you treat me. I don't
Right.
care what you did 2 days ago. You know, I care about today, how you treat me, and we have a very good relationship. God bless you. Look, we all have skeletons in a closet. Some people got graveyards. It is what it is. Some people, like myself, didn't get caught. I'm not saying I was an angel, but all of those experiences made me a much better cop. I have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, very few people were able to get over on me.
And I look at my background and experience like I have an obligation to reach back, especially to reach kids. I speak at churches, I speak at universities, colleges, criminal justice students, law students.
Here we go.
I have arrangements to speak at different law enforcement groups and prosecuting attorney groups and all that. And even the defense bar loves me because I could bring them on a table and put a spotlight on their important cases or wrongful conviction cases. There's only 3 reality stars in the United States working in the field of wrongful conviction. And I think you've heard me with this spiel before. So it's me, Mary in the middle there, and Kim Kardashian. And so we're working with the case of David Michael Reinhardt in California. And she is obviously a much more popular reality star than I am at the moment. And so we are hoping to bring her in to work on that case because this guy shot a police robot, 25 years ago. He was offered time served. Okay. It went into his house when he was fighting with his family over an inheritance. And the lawyers and the family altered the document and they took everything and they set him up. So they tried to kill this guy. They manipulated the police like a lot of wealthy people do to do their bidding. And they sent the police robot in on him. The guy's like, look, I just want to file an FBI report. And here's this altered document. Nobody would listen to him. They tried to kill him. He shot and killed the robot. They put the gas in.
The robot?
He's the first person in history to kill an armed police robot. So the Predator movies where the girl is in Tuscadero and she's saying, no, there was like an armed robot coming after me in Terminator.
Armed robot?
Right. That's the reaction
what was the crime?
His crime was he was holed up in the family house, multi-million-dollar house on a golf course. And he was arguing with family about the inheritance and the altered trust agreement. They fled with a neighbor who was a police sergeant, and they surrounded the house and called it a standoff and threats and all this bullshit. And he said, I'm not coming out until you bring the media, you bring the FBI, let me file this police report, and I'll come out. I said, they ripped me off for millions. They brought me in from out of town to try to kill me or set me up. And that's what's going on right now. You guys are doing their bidding. And the police are so easily, it seems like, I have respect for the blue, but it seems like the wealthier you are, the more crap you get away with, including manipulating police to do your dirty work, making up lies on good people. And he was basically a good guy. He was abused as a kid, so he got away from the family, but he did come back for his inheritance. So poor Dave Reinhardt, he's in Soledad right now doing 53 years. Why? Because he turned down a plea for time served and went to trial because he said, no, I'm not going to give up claim to my inheritance. And so he went to parole hearing a few months ago. They denied him and told him, come back in 15 years. So you took a guy who you know that he was egged on to do what he did, and it doesn't justify him shooting the police robot or shooting outside the window when they were out there with the floodlights in his face. None of that justifies
police robot. And they called it what, a homicide?
I don't have the charges in front of me, but whatever it was.
At best, I'm just going by the laws in New York. That would be reckless endangerment.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way I perceive the charges to be, and criminal mischief.
Whatever it was, I think they enhanced it because he also fired outside the window up in the air, and so
Yeah.
the police.
Okay,
the
that's
police,
reckless endangerment.
right? So the police are claiming he shot at them, and he's like, I couldn't see it. It was floodlights.
You know,
You
that
know, I
would have
wasn't.
been attempted murder, but
Yeah, and so
that'd be tough to prove too.
I don't know the exact charges in the end, the charges or the charges he went to trial. I have it here. I can do that. But so now you got a guy who's given time served. He was really distraught, very, very distraught at the time. Like I said, doesn't necessarily excuse it, but at the same time, you're giving a guy time served. Now you got 53 years and they gave him a 15-year hit on parole after 23 years. Yet Kim Kardashian and Mark Garagos and all these people, they're working with the Menendez brothers who had an option to go to the police and report their parents for abuse. Guess what? Our friend David Reinhardt was also abused, which is why he wasn't living with his family anymore. And this guy got 53 years for shooting a police robot, whereas the whole world wants to see the Menendez brothers go free. Now, I'm not a hater, but I think that their murders premeditated. They planned it. The mother, Kitty, was still alive. They went back in and finished her off when she was begging for her life, presumably. How do these guys, because Gascon is lefty, I think his last day in office was like a day ago, 2 days ago. Gascon says he did a press release. He says, "Oh, the Netflix documentary generated a lot of calls to my office, and so I decided to take a look at the case and put him in for resentencing. Agree to a resentencing, which takes them off of life sentence and makes them parole eligible." Well, he also put out a statement of facts that's public record right now, an internal statement of facts that had none of the facts of aggravation, the facts aggravating the case that really it should have been a death penalty case. He put only the facts that were mitigating factors out to his office. His office staff is outraged. And so they're standing up because that's a big high publicity case in California. Well, we're trying to get more people to rally to help Dave, and a few other guys that we're working with and women. But so the system's broken at many levels. And I'm not going to say I was innocent. I was caught up in it. I think I got excessive time for nonviolent offenses, and I was beat half to death by the cops, broken my ribs, my leg, almost broke my leg, ran me over with the police car, pepper sprayed me for no reason. There was no cameras back then. I would have been a free man with millions of dollars in the bank if there was cameras back when that happened to me. Instead, I ended up with a massive amount of time. It turned into a de facto 25-year sentence, and I lost a good chunk of my life. I put myself in this situation. Don't get me wrong. But the arrest didn't have to go down the way it did. The abuse and the brutalization of me didn't have to go down. The fabrication of additional charges didn't have to go down. And then my lawyer at the time, he had the nerve to run for Attorney General of Florida. The hell was his name? He did a big case. But anyway, he did the depositions of the police officer and tells him what to say during the depot. The guy tried to pull me over, fleeing and eluding in Florida. You must be in a jurisdictionally marked car with lights and sirens activated and going past a certain miles per hour in your vehicle. This guy pulls me over with no siren, just lights. He was in a jurisdictionally marked car. So the three elements of the crime, one element was missing, right? So they could only charge me with a third degree. I told the lawyer this. I said, I was a law clerk and I've been researching this. I said, this guy gave me no chance. He's pulling me over for a little crack in the windshield of my friend's truck that I was driving. And he gave me no chance. And the charges are enhanced. It's not aggravated fleeing and eluding. And here's why. So what he does, it's on the police report. It's on the first statement, I guess. During the deposition, he tells the cop, he says, so when you went to go pull over Mr. Steele, did you activate, what did you do? And he goes, I activated my lights and I was in my jurisdictionally marked car and, he didn't pull over right away. I thought he was fleeing, blah, blah, blah. So he said, are you sure you didn't activate your siren? In other words, he coached him to say
exactly.
He coached him to say
the words his mouth.
The second he said that, I was stuck with the second-degree felony. He said, now you can't put the C4 motion in to dismiss. You have to go to trial. And I said, why would you tell him that? And Jim Lewis was the lawyer's name. I said, Jim, why the hell would you tell him that? He told the truth on his police report. He never used the sirens, and when he coached him during the depot, he said, I tapped it. Tapped was enough for the law, according to the case law, to keep me charged under the second degree. So I went through hell, and I ended up being forced to plead to 10 years instead of getting out in just like a few months. And then that spiraled into more time. And, you know, and as they say, you know, the days of darkness caused me to see the light. And because of all that, you know, I lost contact with my kids. My mother passed away. My sister stole my inheritance. I mean, you have to look back at somebody like me, or even Tommy, of all the things you've been through. Tommy was stabbed through the back after he did a pickup of some cash for the mob at a Latin club. They went in the alley and tried to rob him to get it back with masks on. Stabbed him through the back with a big knife. He's choking up blood. He's near death in the body bag. He survives 2-year recovery. You know, that's one of the things that opened his eyes and made him turn to life. So we all go through these horrific things, guys with our background. You know, and then, you know, being in South Florida is a lot more crime than, you know, where we are in the Midwest, and a lot more horrific crime. And you see people in the same lifestyle that I was in, you know, 30 years ago, dying for no reason whatsoever, over petty reasons, just whether it's addiction or whether they're doing other illegal things. And you look at them and you're like, man, I could have ended up like that. And I'm just so grateful for the life I have today. And I'm able to use my past to help people. It's just, it really gets to me when I see people still struggling with that lifestyle. Then it's just a dead end. They're going to end up dead in prison for life, or, you know, their families are out there worried sick about them. And, you know, mostly, you know, it's a bad thing. So.
As you know, and I'm going to keep names out of it, I've been involved for the past almost a year in a situation where I had a pool company put a pool in for me. He's got a ton of illegal aliens working for him. They did a horrible job on my pool. It never passed inspection, and he up and ran away on me. Wow. Now, in his contract, he has an arbitration clause which prevents me from suing him. Okay, I brought it to a big law firm down here, and they said to me, if you would have brought this contract to us prior to doing the pool, we would not have let you sign it. Now, I knew this guy because he did another pool for me in the past.
Right.
And I trusted him. You know, I had hunted with him. I'd gone out to dinner with him. I knew his family. I trusted the guy. And he screwed me, stuck it to me real good. Now, what this law firm told me to do is you have to take this to the state attorney general's office. Now, I can run a case. I've worked on some of the biggest major case investigations that not in a million years would these people see this down here.
Right.
I brought it to the state attorney general's office. They lied to me. This was a 3-pronged case which involved fraud. It involved human trafficking. It involved environmental crimes. And I took it to them, and they're swearing that they did a case and couldn't find wrongdoing. Yeah. You've seen some of the photographs that I've sent you, which is an
I remember the empty shell in your backyard where the slope of the pool is almost like this, from the shallow end to the deep end, like that, which is like from 4 feet immediately down to 8 feet.
I have a dangerous condition in that
it's a drowning hazard is what it is.
You can't, if you can't swim, a child will drown in my pool. If you can't get in and out of the pool because the steps are too high. What it appears is that this guy has got plenty of juice. He's got me out juiced. And you know, I'm not a good old boy. And there's a lot of stuff going on down here, which I will not reveal now. But I'm doing my own investigation. I'm talking to people, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I'm finding out all this guy's enemies, and I'm taking this to the feds.
Yeah, I understand. You know, we're a similar situation, but I know that I think it was you that had mentioned that every time you went to a law firm about it, this person had contracted with virtually every influential law firm for minor stuff along the way over the years. So therefore, anything that goes to them says, I can't
listen. This guy is very cool, calm, and calculated.
This way they can claim conflict.
Okay. There is some of the big law firms down here that I wanted to use against him. Oh, we can't. This is he's our client, and there would be a conflict of interest. That's okay. Right. It's all right. If they had any kind of brains down here, which they don't, if they had any type of knowledge, this is a perfect RICO case, right, which they don't understand.
No,
okay? A lot of and it could be.
Don't.
This down here is a good old boys club. I've gone to trial down here where the judge on another case refused to give me discovery. How could you do that? Okay, so what I did was I filed subpoenas, 13 subpoenas, and she quashed all my subpoenas.
Oh, man.
There's no way I could win. And when the defense attorney, I represented myself, when the defense attorney and the judge called each other by their first name, I knew I lost. And that's the way it is down here. And the moment I open my mouth with this Brooklyn accent, you know,
you're not part of the good old boys.
I appreciate you now. You know, that doesn't fly. You know, my sweet child, that's not me.
And so I'm laughing because you have a funny way of telling your stories, but it's really serious. I mean, you spent God knows how many thousands of dollars for a hole in the ground that's nothing but a danger pit. I think the water was even backing up onto your lawn.
Oh, forget it. Forget it. I have drainage that was improperly put in. And what happens is the drainage backs up, and there's a million things wrong with this pool.
And they only panic when they get hit with the civil racketeering cases. And in those, they can often be converted to criminal racketeering federally.
I believe
they think they're immune.
Committing crimes. Okay. I know for a fact he's paying off inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They did not do a proper investigation. Now I'm going to go after this attorney's law license because you can't lie. You can't lie to your complainants.
Right.
That's what he did. He lied. If he would sign a statement that says everything he's saying is the truth, he'd go to jail.
Right.
Okay. But a little at a time, I will chip away at this. Okay. The case is now under, it's closed. So it's in public domain. And what I'm going to do is foil or FOIA the case. They have to give me everything that I request.
Right.
And that's going to basically sink them. I don't think they're going to respond to that.
That's the state freedom of information request.
It's a state, and you can do it federally too.
A lot of these people that want to commit crimes or swindles or, just try to con guys like me and you, especially you with your background. Like you said, you know how to run a case and build a racketeering case. I do too. And the reason is because I was a law clerk. The reason is because I've worked with attorneys that build racketeering cases. The reason is because Mary is a data scientist, forensic accountant who will dig up virtually anything that's, legally publicly accessible because she's a civilian. She's not law enforcement. And a lot of the stuff, like with nonprofits and companies and businesses, is all public. It only takes somebody with her skills to dig up stuff on your guy, whoever else, and then say, what in the world is going on here? And then you have people that they think, but what they try to do in a case like you or me, they want to try to victimize the whistleblower. They want to go after the victim.
That's exactly what they're doing.
They want to weaponize the police they have in their pocket to do their bidding for them. This happened there's a guy called Turtle Boy in Boston. Are you familiar with the case?
No.
Karen Reed is accused of backing into her police officer boyfriend, killing him in the snow. But really, it appears that there was a fight inside the house with the other police officers that didn't like him. There's dog bites on him, and they took his body and put it there. And they said the glass from her truck was found in the snow by his body. But then they saw her when he wasn't coming home, coming out of her house fast and sliding into her own fence and breaking her light on her own property, not at the murder scene. They put this lady on trial. There's a podcaster. Shout out to this guy, Turtle Boy. Just like me, telling the truth, trying to bring justice, not afraid to speak, truth to power, and just have had enough of it. And this guy, they put him in jail, I think more than once. They keep letting him go. He's completely innocent. They're just handing him lawsuits and racketeering cases against them. So these people corrupt the law enforcement to go after guys like me, you, and they just try to, like they did to Trump, even like they did to Frank Lordi. And the smart people in law enforcement say, I smell a rat and I don't want no part of this. They're the smart ones, So
the state attorney general's office here is obviously doing a cover-up. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
This guy's got a tremendous amount of power. He's been living here all his life. He's making plenty of money.
Mm-hmm.
The pool owner came to my home and had a conversation with me and recorded everything. Is that normal procedure for? That's what you do to all your clients that you meet with?
No.
It's the whole thing smells. And the state attorney general doesn't see anything wrong here. They dumped concrete in my sewer.
Real convenient. You start doing more research. This guy probably built some of their pools, the police officers' pools.
Well,
donations.
we're gonna find. Listen, I have plenty of photographs to substantiate my allegations.
We have tons of proof on everything we talk about on our shows, and we get ready to talk about or write articles about. We did a huge expose, as you know, about corruption in Fresno, California. One of the biggest organized crime gangsters out there is also one of the biggest donors to the police and the sheriff's office in Fresno.
Of course.
And in fact, he bought them all their body cams. And this guy is running circles around everybody. He has one of the biggest clubs out there. And it's not really funny because he victimized loved ones of mine. So there's things that are going on that I can't get into on the show. But this is not just California. This is South Florida. This is New York. This is in your neck of the woods. It's everywhere.
But let's get back to Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
I am extremely happy. I got my hat over there.
There you go.
Oh, let me get my hat.
And this here, what does that say? 45 and 47 on the hat. And this one here.
There we go. I got Alabama for Trump.
Yeah. Now, I've never been crazy about the red hats, but they kind of grew on me after a while.
It's good.
Yeah. So look, they went after him with everything they had.
They framed him.
There's nobody completely innocent, but let's face it, it was nothing but political persecution.
Yes.
And then Biden pardons his son yesterday. The guy said, we knew he was going to do it. It's no secret. But he gave an interview a few weeks ago. He specifically asked, are you going to pardon your son on the way out?
He denied it.
Absolutely not. The next minute, he pardons. So pathological liars, this woke nonsense. I have many friends with Democrats, wonderful people. I love them. I'm not going to name their names here. I love them as closer than a brother. But I don't know how they fall in line with that. And then they, call us the stupid ones and, the conservatives and the Christians. Look, these people ran the country into the ground for 4 years. 4-year nightmare is over with. Enough is enough.
We talk about January 6th, okay? What I would like to see is that young lady, what was her name, Babbitt? The one who got shot by the police officer or security, whatever he was. That's a homicide. She did not. She was coming through the window. He used deadly physical force against her when she wasn't using deadly physical force against anyone. Okay, he should be arrested. I'd like to see him go to jail. He's exonerated for what he did.
Peter Tickton, okay? Peter Tickton, Trump's attorney, friend for 68 years, dear friend of mine. He was responsible for gathering all the evidence for J6. He announced on my show, every one of them is going to get a pardon by Trump, except for the J6 guys who committed violence, which is reasonable. Okay, so now you have Peter, I can see him here again. I had him up earlier, deep in the mix on that. And I forgot the point I was about to make. Oh, but he has explained how, like, the Azov battalion from Ukraine, one of their guys was in the bushes at the golf course trying to get a shot at Trump, right? So if you remember, right around the time you were here or right after you left, Mary and I went to do some footage at the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, okay, right off, I think it's Forest Hill, whatever. And then we got some footage at Mar-a-Lago. I should have went to Trump's people and to Peter to get the access, but we just decided to get in and see if we could talk to security to get some footage for my show. And we pull up to the gate. These gates are open. Security's there. Secret Service, security guards. They're looking at their phones. To me, they're playing on their phones. And I said to Mary, I said, start filming because they just shot him in the head a few weeks ago. And here we are at the gate. Nobody's paying attention that we're here waiting for them to address us. Waited. A few minutes later, They're still playing on their phones. We drove in, and I'm going slow. I'm not trying to get away from anybody. I'm going slow. All of a sudden, I got 4 guys coming after the car. Hey, stop! Stop means stop! I said, are you kidding me? Review your cameras and ours. We stood there, like 3 to 4 minutes waiting for you guys. We figured he's probably not in residence or he's not on the course, and we can go to the clubhouse, get some footage. I'm friends with Peter Tickton, blah, blah, blah. Well, stop means stop, and you need to get off this property. You could be arrested. And I'm like, this man was shot in the head a few weeks ago, and you guys were doing nothing but playing with the phones when we pulled up and we have the footage. And then you have the footage on all your cameras here, how long we sat here waiting to be addressed. I didn't speed onto the property, and they said, just get the F out of here, da, da, da. And so we drove off. I did a show about it with Ignacio. Our security concerns were completely ignored, that strangers were allowed to drive onto that golf course. A week later, this wannabe assassin from the Azov battalion from Ukraine is in the bushes with rifles trying to get another shot at Trump. Right where we publicly reported that there was a complete lapse of security and they don't care whether Trump lives or dies. I'm sure there's people that are very good in the Secret Service and law enforcement that do care, but the security for him was abysmal, and we thank God the man's still alive. We thank God. We pray for Biden. Get out of there. He's go about your business because you did enough damage to this country. We don't wish any harm come to any of these people. But it's a miracle he's still alive. And I have fans of mine saying, Bill, I look forward more to January 20th than I do to December 25th.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot.
I'm hoping and praying that there is not another major attempt. The guys who are trying to kill him, it's amateur hour. But if someone who really knows what they're doing wants to get him, he could be gotten.
That one kid put the thing right through his earlobe. What the hell? If his head was
saw that? Come on, he wasn't a.
They saw it. People were complaining about him on the roof for, what was it, 23 minutes? There's a shooter on the roof. Nobody did anything. Breakdown in communication, they claim.
These are not professional snipers or killers, I just think that those were practice runs, so to speak, and hopefully they would get lucky. But he's going to have to up his game if he gets it.
I hope they keep him in a bubble until the January 20th because he's hitting the ground running. They're running scared. He's putting somebody in charge of the FBI who said he's going to shut down the Hoover building on day one and turn it into a museum.
Make it a museum.
Shut down the deep state, whether you believe in that or not. It's a figure of speech, and it seems true because they stacked, even according to Ignacio, they stacked the Washington field office with a bunch of agents and investigators and people that are heavily liberal Democrat leaning, and they're going after political targets left and right on the conservatives and Republicans. So now they're all scared to death because they could all go to prison for, collusion, conspiracy, racketeering charges for what they did. And they're all scared to death right now. A new sheriff in town. Trump's, he's about handling his business, but at the same time, people say he's not going to be vindictive. Even Peter told me on the show yesterday, he said he's not going to be vindictive. He's not like that. I said, I wouldn't even call it vindictive. They committed crimes against him that led to they created the insurrection, not him. He said, go up there and protest peacefully. They never released his tweet until Elon Musk took over Twitter and released that tweet where he said, go protest peacefully. He never called for violence. The Democrats did. And now it's all come out and they're all scared. So, Louie, we're running out of time here.
Okay.
We're going to some other stories. South Florida is beautiful. We're going to be covering a shooting. It's an unsolved crime from back in a few years back at the Town Center Mall. We're going to be working with some law enforcement and some witnesses on a case where there was a killing there. The lady was kidnapped with her child and made to use her ATM, and then they bound her up. And, it's unsolved for many years, and this thing needs to be solved. Now,
wasn't there a big homicide down in Florida when you were there?
Yeah, and
weren't you living there or close to it or what have you?
I was working for the organization where the incident happened. It was a luxury unit on the beach, right north of Palmetto Park. I'm not going to say the address here, but
yeah, I remember reading about that.
We were told under threat of losing our job, and I was specifically because they know I do true crime and I'm an investigative journalist. Do not talk to the police. Do not talk to the media. I was asked to clean up the crime scene after the police cleared the crime scene. So yeah, a guy goes in and there was things that I can't talk about. But what's being released publicly is more for the image of Boca Raton than the reality on the ground, which some of us in a very small circle know. This guy was bad news, and he was involved previously with his fentanyl sting, where he was trying to sell fentanyl to undercover cops. I reported this to the owner of the organization. I said, you need a specialized crew in there. Instead, I was sent to go buy some bleach and gloves and like clean it up myself. And I'm like, wait, this is like a death sentence. If there's fentanyl and there's blood, I'm not trained for that. You need crime scene guys to go in there, And then I was ordered to take pictures of the remains, and it was horrendous. I'm still having nightmares. Anyway, so yeah, it's the first massacre in Boca Raton history, right on the ocean, at a place where it should have never happened, because there was multiple warnings about what's going on. One of the leasing agents and the owner and other people were told what was going on there. In fact, I was at his office the other day, and one of his top people in the office, I'm not sure, because I didn't like what I was hearing. It sounds like she's trying to make a deal with the feds and get out of there. But she said he's been told about this for years and he ignores us. So it's just an ugly situation. And the poor people died. I guess they were living in, doing certain things that they weren't supposed to be doing. But that doesn't give anybody a right to go there and kill them. They needed help. They needed treatment. They needed to be treated like human beings. And I was tasked to go take pictures for the lawyer, for the firm, and for the owner. And next thing you know, every employee is asking me for the photos. And I said, no, that's inappropriate.
You should not have been asked to do that.
I had a breakdown in the first unit because there was a poster in the wall with a woman with her head kicked back. It was like a singer, a black lady, and it says, life is beautiful. And I'm thinking, and this fingerprint powder all down the side of it and on the floor and on the countertops and search warrants laid out on the kitchen counters. And I broke down crying. I was like, man, this girl ran out chasing this guy. And that's like the last thing she saw. And even though despite the life she was living, allegedly, that lifestyle, she still had hope of something better in life, that she still saw life as beautiful and had some hope. And I was like, and I didn't change my life 30 years ago. That could have been me, out there just dead like a dog in the parking lot of a luxury condo. It was all, in my opinion, completely avoidable. Anyway, we're going to be diving into a few things, but the main one is that big homicide, unsolved homicide in Boca. We want to get resolution for that. It's too long where their family members have no closure. And I couldn't pronounce her last name, so I'm trying to pull it up real quick because we're running out of time. But let me see. It's Italian last name. It's a tricky one, and I apologize to the family members. But the victims over there at the other shooting, we're going to give them a shout out and a prayer. Christopher Lysick, Chandler Dill, she was 32. Christopher was 49. An unidentified male, I'll say his first initials, C. We have people in touch with him. And the shooter, Devontae Moss, was picked up in Georgia. They caught him on a surveillance. We were actually brought back to the scene by the homicide detectives to try to make available the video footage and later on to break into the safe so that the detectives could get in the safe. But what the hell on this other one?
You don't know anything about safes, do you?
No comment. I let my supervisor go in. I said, I'm going to sit this one out and sit in the car. But it turns out that one of the detectives on the case, great guy, I know him from 20 years ago. He was investigating a big case. And so we came into each other's orbit, but he's a good guy. But I was told, don't talk to him. I was given instructions not to talk to anybody. And then when I was taking the pictures, the homicide cleared the scene. I go in, to clean up with a couple of other guys. And there's all kinds of media. Hey, can we come in and take some pictures? What really went on here? What happened? Tell us anything you know. And I'm like, look, I can't talk to the media, blah, blah, blah. My boss would come over and say, what you were told, get back to work. You'll lose your job. Mr. Such and such doesn't want anybody talking to the media. I said, I am the media. I have a true crime channel. I'm an investigative journalist, but I'm a team player. And I was okay because there's nothing major that I could tell them that they probably don't know already. But the media is like, who the hell are you to tell me, violate my constitutional rights, tell me not to talk to the media, and a constitutional right to talk to the authorities. If I had something to offer, that would have been beneficial. Bottom line, there's more to it. I'm not going to get into it, but this other case at the mall, my gosh, I have so much research here. We have it in a couple of different places. In a town center, it was 2007, and Anyway, unsolved since 2007. Okay. And I remember because I was back and forth South Florida at that time and I was locked up. But I remember how huge this was and how horrific it was because nothing like this really happens in Boca. Things are changing. So, Louie, we ran a little bit over.
Okay. I was cooking all day. I have to go to the Fraternal Order of Police Christmas dinner tonight. I did some of the cooking because that's what I do.
I heard something about a vodka rigatoni over here on the phone.
I made penne alla vodka primavera, which is penne alla vodka with vegetables on top. And I made a cold shrimp salad a la Luigi, which I can't tell you about because then I'll have to kill you.
Let me give proper due to these victims of the shooting over there at the Town Center Mall. So we have December 12th, 2007, Nancy and Joey. Okay. So Joey's the daughter. She was 7 years old. And they were exiting the mall. Guy robbed them, bound them. They were found bound, shot, forced to use the ATM card. But the last name is Bo Ciccio. Now it's Italian. So Mary says it's more like Bociccio. So BOCHICCHIO. It's time for some of these cold case homicides to get closure. We've covered a few of them before, including the murder of Ryan Modell. DeSantis and Amira Fox in Fort Myers have been sitting on their hands. Anyway, that's it, Louie. Glad to have you back. Look forward to bringing you.
Pleasure.
I'm going to bring you on in a few days with
yes, sir.
Tsunami. We're going to have everybody on here.
That'd be awesome. I can't hardly wait. Got those shirts for you. Just, I got to get them to you ASAP.
All right. So we're going to go sign off. This is a segment of Mafia Mondays, which will be going up tonight. And here we go. That's one of the thumbnails there. Everybody, thank you again for joining. God bless.
God bless.